One of the things that makes Gul such an interesting place for the visitor is the incredible views that you get. And this is the old Dutch hospital, which is full of places which provide the most wonderful food, really exotic restaurants, tea places, places that sell gems. But this is what I like to be able to get up on the ramparts and just take a stroll. And just take everything in. So to the question, is Sri Lanka a tropical paradise? The answer is emphatically yes. Think about early morning, the time before about 8:30 to 9. If you by the sea, that breeze is so refreshing. Hello and welcome to the final in the series of films about Sri Lanka. As I'm sure you're aware by now, I absolutely loved my experience out there, and where I'm staying here is Gul, which is where we left off at the end of the last film. And it's a really lovely place right by the sea on the south coast. And the fort where I stayed had its own very special quality, so much quieter and more peaceful than in most of the urban areas I was exploring in the time that I was there. And after this we're going to go actually into Colombo, into the suburbs, so you'll get to see what the busiest part of the country is all about. So, without further ado, let's go into the film. Now, a water experience in the sea here is just so delicious. One of the really great things, of course, is the temperature. It's an ideal temperature for you to step into and feel really good. And surprisingly, compared with my experience in India, the water here is very clean. It looks clean, which is not what I could say from my experience a few years ago. So, clean water, delightful temperature, and it makes you feel really good. The negative ions, which are so invigorating, are really even more important in the hot country than they are in the cold country. So it's one of the major pluses to me is to be able to get in the sea. Hello there and welcome to Peak Experiences for Psychonauts. This is a brand new service which I'm going to be offering quite shortly. This is just to give you a bit of a heads up. Now, I know that a very popular destination in Europe is Amsterdam. Amsterdam has some very particular advantages for a certain kind of a lifestyle, and I've been well aware of that for a long time. Now, on my experience in Sri Lanka, what I've realised is that I can actually create something even better, in fact a lot better, and in a far more exotic location. I realised, no, not a location, a whole series of locations. So what I'm proposing to offer you is the opportunity to come to an absolutely beautiful country all the way out in Asia, east of India, and have the experience of a lifetime. And believe you me, we will be greening it up out here, but we will also be having the opportunity to go further and deeper into the inner world. So it's an interesting thing. We tend to think of travellers outward and inward. Well, here's an opportunity to do both. So we travel outward to this beautiful country, we explore some of the many wonders it has to offer, and then in suitable locations we have a variety of very interesting plants that we're going to be working with, which will enable you to take your process much further still. So If you're interested, do get in touch. Give you an idea, it's about 10 to 14 days depending on the package that we're going to create for you, and it's going to be extraordinary. There isn't anything else like this at the moment, so your opportunity to be the first to experience something really remarkable. And Amsterdam, well, it's okay as a starting point, but we can go so much further. So here are some photographs. That one of the boat on wheels is particularly perplexing. I can't quite imagine what that's about, but there you go. So I've spoken about this, I think, on one of the other films, but one of my most interesting experiences staying in Gul was staying at this very nice hostel. And on my second night of the hostel, a bunch of Chinese people turned up. And it was a truly interesting experience because the contrast between their demeanour and that of the Americans the previous night was extreme. There's the woman playing the guitar beautifully. Obviously people being on the internet, yeah, you definitely expect that. But their lively interest in themselves, in me, in their environment was really noticeable. And I learned a lot from spending time with them. They all had professional jobs. One person had a larger manufacturing business as a teacher there. There's a couple of other professional people. So really interesting people to get to know. And it was interesting that their English was good enough that we could have a really decent conversation. It was very obvious that they were just having a wonderful time being out there on the island, because it's such a lovely place to be, no doubt about it. There's a few little newspaper cuttings which I thought were quite amusing, just for your delectation. It's just to give the flavour, really, of what you get in the newspaper. It's not like the Sun or the Star, you know. On one of my walks, I was just passing by a couple of guys and made a remark, and next thing you know, all three of us having a chat. At the end of the conversation, one of the guys pulled this out of his bag and gave it to me. And he looked at me and he could see the thoughts going through my head. Oh, the guy probably thinks I'm asking for money. He wasn't. He was just giving a gift because he felt like it. That was so lovely. These are the guys who ran the hostel where I was staying. And now here we are. We were leaving Gul behind, and we're on our way finally to Colombo. So I get to have my experience of a big city existence, and also I get to stay in the suburbs. So I'm off. So after my only meal at McDonald's in Sri Lanka, veggie burger, absolute rubbish as you'd expect, I then found myself in the car again. I've been on a really long drive, about 6 hours to get to Colombo, but suddenly here I am in the car again because it had all been arranged for me through Mohammed and Charith, because I'd had a really dodgy massage before in Ella. They were going to organise me a really decent one. This is a properly accredited Ayurvedic hospital, and massage is one of the many services they offer. I had a proper interview with the doctor, and this is the massage room where all the work was done. And what was so significant, you can see this in all the images I'm showing you, it was a very somber place in terms of light. The light levels were very low, in complete contrast to what you get in the Western hospital. As if they turned the light levels down low deliberately to have you in a more calm, relaxed, receptive and open state. And they're showing you their massage table with a built-in table underneath. Wonderful water feature for washing your hands in. That's my masseur himself, a really lovely, heartfelt guy. And this is a special Ayurvedic tea I was offered after the massage to prepare myself for my next 2-hour journey back to where I was going to go and spend the evening. And talking of spending the evening, here I am, because now we are in the suburbs, and you now get treated to music night with Charith and his friends. Hello. It's the early hours of Wednesday morning and I've arrived with Charith at his home after the most amazing night of singing. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to bed. And this is my bed. Good night. Hello and good morning. Morning, Sri Lanka, Colombo. Let's go and have a look outside then. It's my first night of sleeping completely without air conditioning or a fan. And I've discovered how you do it. Pretty obvious really, you really green it up in the evening and you line your bed, as I did, which didn't even have a sheet to cover me. First time I had no sheet to cover me, so you line your bed with no covering. It's funny, but psychologically it's such a big thing, we're so habituated to having a cover when you lie on your bed, not even a sheet, no, just lying completely open. And you just lie there. And eventually, or soon, next thing you know, it's morning. And complete surrender to the heat. My first total 100% heat surrender experience, there being no air conditioning, no fan. And for that I'm very, very profoundly grateful. I'm also profoundly grateful for that Leadham 6X I had all the way back in Ireland. Seems like about 5 years ago, but it wasn't. It was only a few weeks ago. And as I may have mentioned already, it's a homeopathic remedy you can either buy from Helios Pharmacy. It's also something I can make myself. And what it is it's something that prevents a reaction to any bite. So you may get bitten, there's just no reaction. Wonderful stuff. Helios Pharmacy, look them up if you are going to go to a country where there's a lot of problems with biting insects. It's good. And so yeah, so that's my portal into the outside world there. And it's completely bizarre because if I walk out there, walk for long enough, I find a supermarket, and there ain't any supermarkets anywhere else in the whole of Sri Lanka except here in Colombo. And the funny thing is they're owned by a company called Cargill, and Cargill is one of the 7 wealthiest multinational corporations on the planet, or they were at least. And one of the things that they control the world supply of is grain. So whenever you're buying bread, you're almost certainly eating bread made with Cargill wheat. It's interesting because in the West we tend to be a bit more subtle and discreet about these things, but out here it was really in your face. So every employee's got the word Cargill on their jacket that they're wearing. So yeah. So my last day, my last full day here. Oh, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a breeze. A breeze is a priceless gift out here. So delicious. So last night I got myself a takeaway coconut. Never done that before. The breakfast this morning is king coconut and banana. Tiny, delicious Sri Lankan bananas. Together with that coconut, what a perfect start to the day. I'll take a quick look around upstairs. So what I'm going to do now is a little bit of footage and some photographs about where I'm staying, just to give you an idea about what it's like to have a house in the suburbs, in what is a pretty select area, I would estimate. All the houses have plenty of space, decent sized gardens and so on. And as you can see, he really likes his artworks. There's quite a lot of very powerful art images throughout the house, and because the rooms are so large, they're very well displayed. You really get a sense of what's wanting to be conveyed. And there's a very busy man. You can see piles of clothes, cricket championship trophies. He's a very good cricketer, as well as a singer, as well as a film actor and filmmaker. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to then move us over into the subject of food. So after all this time of eating other people's food, this is one of my greatest treats. I went to the shops myself, I bought my own food, and I prepared what to me was an absolutely amazing salad with all these fresh ingredients, including organic herbs in the packet you can see on the bottom right there. So to me this was a massive pleasure. After being cooked for, actually I'll have what I want and I'll make it myself. That's a little packet of dal there, and that's the papaya salad with all the usual superfoods like the pomegranates, avocados, all the really good things you'd expect. Now I'm just showing you the toilet facilities because they are so different. So you've got this extra tap with a little showering type device, and what they do is when they want to clean their bathroom, they just turn it on max and spray the whole floor over. Now imagine being able to clean your bathroom without having to get down on hands and knees and mess about with pots and buckets. I love that. So just showing you his garden. This is what a garden is like in the suburbs. Of course, the vitality and the vibrance of the plants is so noticeable, and it's just beautiful to be outside. And you've got a really big veranda to keep the hot sun off, which is nice. Yet more artwork you can see here, just actually outside on the veranda artwork. And plenty of other buildings not so far away. So this is my very last afternoon here. And so I'm going to take a stroll down to the shops. Like everything here, even something as simple as a stroll down to the shops is an experience. So our stroll begins with the dusty track. And I guess this is the school. So past the school, for me this walk is a metaphor for my entire Sri Lanka experience, which is this: everything takes somewhat longer than I might expect, and it's always worth it. So one thing you'll notice straight away here is just how vibrant the vegetation is, how it tends to grow over everything given a quarter of a chance to do so. And here by contrast you can see an area which has been rather severely cut back and strongly managed. And this is the thing about the tropics, is that the vibrancy of the plants is so strong, it takes very little time indeed for nature to completely take over. So it's the issue about being a human being and owning land out there. As to what extent do you allow things to just go their own way, and to what extent do you impose your own vision of control? And listening to Charles speaking earlier in the first one, he thinks is one of the major issues in society today, to what extent we actually cooperate with nature by being a lot more laissez-faire and letting nature do her own thing. Certainly permaculture is an example where this is taken to a very precise degree, and then the whole permaculture principle is what you do is you let nature do as much as possible, and you do as little work as possible, end up with really good yields of a good variety of edible plants. That's perfectly possible. And there goes another tuk-tuk. It is one of the default means of transport in this part of the world. And so now we've actually left the dirt road, and this is a little bit of tarmac road. And I'll just say a word about the roads because they are not that good, but by any European standards the roads are definitely rough, with a single exception of the motorways, of which there are very few, and those are to just the same high standards in Europe. But you do get the strange thing that when someone's driving, they're driving between two lanes, they haven't realised you're supposed to get into a lane, so that's a little bit odd. You have to actually sit behind the vehicle for a few minutes and just kind of hover where the mirror is, and then slowly move over, and then you can actually continue on your journey. So yeah, motorway is not that fast because of that reason. And here we are out on the main road, and this is really back into life of shops and commerce and business. Volume is much louder up here, no doubt about it. And the building straight ahead is owned by Cargill, which is one of the largest multinational corporations on the planet, and it's a typical supermarket. Here, by contrast, you can see a local market stall. And what I love about Sri Lanka is that the only place I saw any supermarkets the entire time I was there was actually in Colombo. The rest of the time, it's independent small retailers. So people are getting the money and they're recirculating within their economy. Whereas, of course, if you go into that place, you know that the money you pay is just being sucked up into the more of the multinationals. So it's much easier to support the small local businessmen in Sri Lanka because that's a default mode. And now here we are on my ride to get some cigarettes for Dan. And the tuk-tuk, it's a rough vehicle to be inside. It's noisy. You pick up every vibration, every bump on the road. And I learned an interesting experience. This is why you need guides. If you don't have a guide, you get charged 3 times the price. So I think I paid, he asked for 1,000. I ended up paying 800, and I should have paid only 300 rupees for this entire journey. So when you go to this country, you need a guide. It'll save you a fortune. So suddenly there was this mysterious music, and actually it was someone with a band trying to sell something. So now this is my last evening in Sri Lanka, and there's something you could well be asking about, and that's my guide and my host, Charith, and that's one of the wonderful organic fresh herbs you could buy. And here's us having dinner together, last meal. So what I really want to talk to you now is the question of small biting insects, particularly mosquitoes, because it's always an issue, isn't it, in the tropics? And this is my story, which is I had very little bother the entire time I was there, except for the last night, which is why I'm going to mention it to you. So obviously, if you want to be in a hot country, ideally you don't want insects biting, you just don't want this. So all the other places that I went to, either there was a mosquito net or there simply was not really any problem. However, on my very last night at Charith's house, it's done kind of one of these, it just happened that way. The previous night I was fine. I kept the windows and the shutters all closed, but that evening on the last night they were open, so I was lying on the mattress which you've seen the shot of earlier with no cover on because it's so incredibly hot, of course, without any air conditioning and no breeze whatsoever, with everything closed up. But because it'd been open, what happened is I spent the night being bitten, and in a way it was a perfect contrast from my experience out there, because to really understand how unpleasant it is, you actually have to go through it. So that's what I had. So my last night was really being bitten to pieces by mosquitoes, and by the following day, and here we are arriving at we're just driving to the city actually on the way to the airport. But you can imagine, so my last night really was quite something, because virtually no sleep and being bitten. and bitten, quite something. And there's a building with lots of scaffolding on that's having work done to it. And yeah, from now on, what I'm just really doing is showing you my drive out towards the airport, showing you the business, so you can take in the sights and the sounds, and well, luckily for you, can't take in the smells. So now it's goodbye to Deepal, my driver who took us through all sorts of experiences, some of which were incredibly challenging for him. That when we found ourselves getting down the more and more narrow track, and then the vehicle got stuck because there was a big stone. He dealt with everything unflappably. Wonderful guy. So thank you very much, Deepal, for looking after me so very well. And yeah, this is it, folks. This is me in the aeroplane, taxiing, readying for takeoff, and feeling such gratitude for Ahmed, of course, and Shazia for inviting me out there in the first place, for Charith and Deepal, and also Deepal's substitute driver who took over on one day when that was necessary. Just a big thank you to all these people, the people who were running the hotels and the different retreat centres that I stayed at. Thank you to all you people, because the kindness of strangers is a great gift when you're travelling, and it's a great thank you to Paz Food. Tuned this in to me some years ago now, just to be open to the possibility whenever you travel, the possibility of receiving the kindness of strangers, and that's very much what I had. Really, I would say only the tuk-tuk driver was hostile, unpleasant, and trying to extort money. The rest of the time I had nothing but really lovely, kind, warm experiences, and it makes you feel a good sense of love for humanity. So thank you, Sri Lanka.